In this lecture, we're going to see that we can specify default values for our template parameters. And this is going to work whether you either use type parameters or non-type parameters, as we see in our box container class template. The way you set up default, you use equals and you specify your type or your value. This is going to be picked up by the compiler every time you create objects of this class, as we see here. In the first example, we are not going to be specifying any template argument. So the defaults are going to be picked up, and this is going to use these defaults. The type is going to be int, and the value is going to be a 10 here. If we look at the second example here, we're going to only be specifying one parameter, and the other is going to be defaulted. So we will end up with this data for our object. For the third example here, we're going to be specifying all the parameters. All the defaults are going to be overridden, and we are going to end up with something like this. Now that you know this, we're going to head over to Visual Studio Code and see how this works. Here we are in our working folder. The current project is default values for template parameters. We are going to grab our template files and put them in. And I am going to grab our code and put this in here. This is going to be our box container class. You can grab this from the resource section of the course and use this as a starting point for this lecture. For now, I am going to open this up in Visual Studio Code, and we're going to take a closer look. And the goal is to be able to use default parameters or default values for our template parameters. We're going to look at our template declaration for our class, and we specify int as the default type, and we specify 10 as a default value for the non-type template parameter here. So hopefully this proves that the defaults that we can set up can work either for type parameters or non-type parameters in our template declarations. And the only place where you need to specify this is for the class declaration. You're not going to have to specify this in method implementations. For example, if we look at our operator here, you see that we don't need to specify these values. This exactly works like default values work for functions. You specify this in the declaration, but you don't specify this in definitions, and it is the same logic here. One thing you need to be careful about is the order of these things, because if we order things this way, we reserve the right to specify the first parameter and not specify the second parameter, but it is not possible to specify the size and not specify the type here, so you need to be aware of this. Now that we have this in place, I think we can go in our output stream operator and try to get this maximum here printed out. So we can go down here and say maximum NTTP to mean that this is a non-type template parameter. And we want to see if we pick up this default value. That's why we do this. And we are going to say maximum here. Oh, we are already printing this out. So I don't think we need this guy here, so let's remove it and make sure that this is a non-type template parameter that we are printing here, and we will see it if we run code that uses this output stream operator. I think this is all we need. We can head over to the main CPP file and include our box container. And we can set up a simple piece of code to play with this. So let's put this in. We're going to create a box container. You see that we're not specifying any template argument here. So the defaults are going to be picked up. This is going to be a box container for int, and it is going to have a value of 10 in our non-type template parameter. So if we add elements all the way to 10, we're going to see that any other elements are not going to be addable because the maximum we support is 10. If we go back to our add method, it is going to be the exact same thing we saw in a few lectures ahead. You see, if the size is equal to maximum, we're not going to be able to add any more elements to this box container object. That's what we set up here. And if we try to run the code, we're going to see this in action. So let's pass this through GCC, and we have a bunch of compiler errors. What is wrong here? We have no member named get item, and we are calling this in our output stream operator. So let's go there and fix this up. Let's look at our operator here. We no longer have these methods in because they are commented out, but we can bring those in. And now if we build again, they will be available. Sorry for this. So let's make sure this is working. the build is going to be good. And if we bring up a PowerShell window and try to run this, we will see that we will be able to add elements all the way to 10. But if we want to add any more elements, you're going to see that the maximum capacity has been reached. And if we print this, we're going to see that the maximum was picked up from our default, and it is a 10. Let's go back and use 11, for example, and show you that this is going to work. Let's make sure we have a 5 here. We can do this to make sure we see that we can't add more than 5 elements, and we see a 5 in this place here. That's what we expect. So let's pass this through GCC. The build is going to be good. We can clear and run Rooster. We're going to see that we can't add any more elements once we hit 5, and we're going to see that our default value was picked up to be a 5. Okay, this is what I want you to see. We can comment this out because we don't want noise output for what we are about to see here. It is also possible to specify only one value, and we can specify that like this. This is a template argument, I should say. And this is going to make this our type, and the size is going to be resolved by the compiler as a default value from our template declaration here, and that's going to be a 10. If we print this object, let's do that. We're going to say int box2. It is not an int box, it is a double box. We should make this super clear, and we're going to say double box add, and we're going to print our double box here, and we are going to see that this is going to have a size of 10 because this is the default. This is the message I am trying to convey here. Let's build and see that this goes through. The build is good. We can clear and run Rooster. We're going to see that if we print this, the maximum is going to be a 5. Why is that? Because that's the default. If we go back, we're going to see that we have a 5 in here. If we change this to be a 10, and the build again, we're going to pass this through GCC. The build is going to be good. We can clear and run Rooster to see our value to be a 10 now. This is what I want you to see. And we say maxim NTTP. We should really say maximum. Let's make sure we fix this because this is annoying to me. Let's say maximum. And NTTP stands for non-type template parameter. This is what I want to say here. Let's build again and make sure we see the right thing. The build is going to be good. We can clear and run Rooster, and this is going to have our data in as we expect. Our default is going to be picked up and used as a size here, but the first parameter is using the type that we specified explicitly in the first parameter here. Notice that we can specify one and leave the other out, but it is also possible to specify them all. So let's see an example of this. So we can create a box container of characters and specify a value of 5 for our maximum. We're going to be able to put in 5 characters. So if we try to do something like this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is going to go in. But if we try to add more, we're going to fail as we are about to see. Let's try and build this. This is going to go through GCC. The build is going to be good. We can clear and run Rooster. We're going to see that we're going to put in the data, but the maximum is going to be reached and we're not going to be adding any more item. And if we print the data again, we're going to see that we still have hello in. We can copy this and put that right here. And this is annoying because this is not an int box. So let's make sure we change this to car box. And I am going to copy these all over the place. Let's make sure we correct this. Okay, I think it's all corrected now. If we build and run, we're going to see that we have the data that we expect in here. The build is good. We can clear and run Rooster. We're going to see that the maximum is going to be reached. And if we print again, we're going to see that we have the same data. And our non-type template parameter is what we specified here. It is not the default. You see that now the default is a 10, but we are eclipsing that with an explicit value we use as our template argument here. I hope this makes sense. This is really all I wanted to share in this lecture, showing you that you can specify default values for your template parameters. This is going to work whether you are using type parameters or non-type parameters. So make sure you use this to your advantage if it makes sense for whatever you are designing with C++. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to learn about explicit template instantiations. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.